Hello, I am here to show you a project that I worked on last year at the end of our remote learning. We in fifth grade were reading the book Promises to Keep, and we were finding, I was the special ed teacher at the time, and my co-teacher and I were finding that the students were not engaging in this really interesting text the way that we had expected to. So my co-teacher had found this template, and then I changed it and added a lot to it to try to make it more interesting so it covers the entire book. Now we did this 3 chapters in. So in the next chapter, on the next slide, you see that these were previous work that we've done up until the next one. I gave the students an example of this slide and the type of text that we were looking for. So each chapter has the title of the book. It has a link to the PDF of the book. And then it also has that chapter, like this is a determined pair. This chapter, it's actually read aloud for the students. And so students can follow along on their screen and listen to the text being read aloud. We did this for accessibility for all students. Students were required to, anything in red means that they need to add to it. So they were supposed to add a summary for each chapter. They are supposed to find a text, a quote, or a video, a picture, a graphic from that chapter that really resonated with them and insert it into here. And then they needed to explain why they chose that quote. So this is an example that I gave to them. And at the bottom of each Google slide, I gave them, what this slide is. And then if they go down to the next one, I have down here to complete the red boxes, summary, quote, and explanation. What we did was we made a copy in Google Classroom for each student to fill out, and we made deadlines for each one to be done. And we felt like it allowed students to work at their own pace. They were allowed to get help at different times in small groups. So some things that I definitely want to use it again, but there are definitely some things that I would add to and change. One thing that I would definitely add at the beginning is the objectives for the unit, and the specific outcomes. What are we leading to at the end of this book? What is the goal? I would also add links here to where it says the summary. I would add a link to a graphic organizer that would help them write a summary. By this time, it was at the end of fifth grade. They had lots of practice throughout the year to write summaries. So the expectations from the teacher was that they should be able to write a summary. We were found that a lot of them couldn't, and a lot of them needed a lot more support. So what I would do was create a linked to the summary here to a graphic organizer. And then for each student, you can actually change it and maybe give some students part of the summary actually filled out, some tips, or make it blank to make it more purposeful for each student. One of the other parts that I would add to it would be for each slide, either down here and like one of the overviews or episodes, it would be specific links to Flipgrid for questions around social justice and change that they could add to and then respond to each other. So it would add a more collaboration aspect to the project and make it something more interesting for each one so that they can hear about each other's thoughts and ideas. I think that could also be done for this section about what students are saying, possibly inserting a link to a separate Flipgrid option. So for some students where this type of written text is challenging or they need more support, maybe doing it visually and on a video would be accessible to them. And then at the end, I would add it just ends with the last chapter. And I would add what's next? What are we going to next? What's coming from this next? Maybe some additional text for the students to check out if they were interested in, to make it more of a complete project and something that they can move on from here. Thanks.